sharing. Hey, there we are. Hey, Facebook, how you guys doing? I am your host of all the things on my channel, but just specifically this ECE Disruptors live chat. We're here with Dr. Robert Gundling, and we are the ECE Disruptors. As you know, if this is not your first time tuning into the ECE Disruptors live chat, then definitely remember to chime in. I have my phone up so I can see you guys' feedback. And if you have any questions or just a topic that you want us to discuss, let us know. Okay, we can bring you on for the next live chat. Hey, Dr. Gellin, how you doing?
Doing well, LaToya. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm
So,
always excited.
I like to get right to it.
Yeah.
Um, and so, um, for those who may be joining for the first time, we have accepted the premise that there is no staffing crisis, that there are solutions, and we want to be a force to provide information, past experiences, and support for people to move through whatever staffing crises that they have. And so we've been talking about LaToya's experience and expertise in workforce development, beginning with um, her work with TANF clients. TANF is a government assistance program who were being supported to transition from government funded support for their life and their families to self-sufficiency by acquiring the skills necessary to get and retain a job, a career, actually, not a job, but to identify a career and to develop that career so that it allowed the individuals to move gradually off of government funding. And so, LaToya, so last week LaToya focused on the employer and the profile of the employer, whereas according to my notes, she would ask the employer, well, what do you want um, from a candidate? And she would visit the program. And just as what I see is she mirrored what she did with clients with the employer.
Yeah.
What's your why? What's your story? And what do you want? Uh, yeah, and so today I want to offer to LaToya the opportunity to go deeper by talking about what she found. Believe first, what's one success story she had, or the strongest employer that she worked with in filling their vacant positions, and then touching on what do you believe, LaToya, is the responsibility and the accountability of the employer to candidates that are sent to them or who respond to an Indeed job description. Last thing, real fast, on our Facebook page, I actually posted Exchange Magazine now has a job description builder. So I would encourage anyone who's not seen it, let it join our group if you haven't joined already, which we hope you have. And let us know how the tool works. One thing I find as I learn more about AI, technology is a tool that can make us more efficient. And yeah. All right, LaToya, I'm finished. It's yours.
Well, thank you, Dr. Gundling. When I think about my experience with employers, and what worked the best, I have my phone on. What worked the best, I would say programs were first, like programs like Southeast Children's Fund because they have a process. I don't really want to count those because they have such a big ecosystem like UPO and things like that. When I think of actual just the childcare businesses, I would say like my best experience with what I would say what worked well was with when I worked with Bright Horizons. And I know you're familiar with Bright Horizons, and it's so funny because we didn't even meet through Bright Horizons, but you have that background too. I met with Bright Horizons through one of my coworkers worked with Bright Beginnings. And she told me a lot about what they did. One of her friends was a recruiter, and she was saying how hard it was for her to find candidates. So I was like, introduce her to me. Like, I got you. And when I sat down and talked with her, she said that, they have so many locations, the turnover rate is so high, but they have a process, but they don't have a recruitment process. What they were experiencing was the whole people applying and not showing up. That was their biggest barrier. So because they had a process already laid out, I'm going to get into it real quick. It helped me to help them because what I was able to do was on the front end really weed through the candidates. And I would actually do it on a monthly basis where I would have them, we would do kind of, I guess you would say a test run. They would have a weekly group interviews just to kind of get to know people and put them into a space where they can uh I guess see how they respond to the other people and they get to know them. And so before there's any interview or sit down and you're nervous and all that, they actually bring you to a location. So what that does is really to see if you're actually willing to come out. Because like I tell any of my employers, when you're on Indeed and you're looking for employees on Indeed, a lot of times I'm gonna be honest with you, half the people on Indeed are not really looking for jobs. Don't get me wrong. There are people that are looking for jobs on Indeed, but you got to understand there's a lot of programs that have a requirement to job search. And the best, easiest way to job search is online. Indeed, you have workforce development programs, you have TANF programs, you have return to citizen programs, you name it. So a lot of people, unemployment programs out the wazoo. So what you have to realize is it really is a numbers game. So you have to have a pipeline created. And that's what I was able to partner with Bright Horizons in doing with not just bringing people to them, but having that process and what that looked like. So people not only felt more comfortable, they also felt more professional. And that's what I was talking about last week, Robert, because the professionalism a lot of times is not there. And I'll be honest with you, if I'm going to look for a job and you all over the place, you don't have nothing ready for me, you're not even acting like you remember that I was supposed to be coming in today, that's not going to make me want to stay there. It's not going to make me feel like I could pay my bills off of this job. You know what I mean? So what I appreciated with working with Bright Horizon is their follow-up. They had a process already in place. They had not just one recruiter, but they had they had a team of recruiters so that they got different personalities. They didn't spare expenses as far as going out. They didn't mind coming out of their comfort zone. You know what I mean? And that's really what it takes. It is a constant, I don't want to say battle, but it is a battle. It's a constant search. It's a pipeline, and a pipeline means that there's a flow. And that's one thing that they understood, that you have to constantly have people coming in. You have to constantly have them being trained. And what I don't want you guys to miss is the process, because that is one of my biggest flexes with my workforce development victories is teaching businesses how to create a process and what that looks like. And when you allow people to just do whatever they want to do and get there how they get there, that's on you. You should have a process for your onboarding process for your new interviews, for your candidates, how they turn into candidates, how they're introduced to the location, how they're introduced to the staff, how they're welcomed. All of those things are different with those companies that actually don't have a problem hiring people or getting new people because there is a process. So what I would say is when working with Bright Horizons, It was a process piece, I believe, that changed everything. People took it more seriously, and their pay was the best. That's another thing. I know, Dr. Gulling, you talk a lot about, the cold hard cash. Because people, they definitely want the money. Now, a company as big as Bright Horizons, they got the money to pay people like that. A lot of the smaller business and family childcare business models, they can't really afford to pay people in that way. And if that's the case, good and fine. We still want security. We still want to know that there's some consistency, there's some professionalism, and that I'm going to get paid at the end of the day, because we talked about it last week, Dr. Gunnar, like when it comes to different businesses, the professionalism is definitely missing a lot from how people conduct themselves, but also in the process. So that's why, as a marketer, it's kind of, I became a marketer because I had to show businesses part of your professionalism is your marketing. Your professionalism is your marketing because it's how you make people feel. And then the actual visuals to the marketing are the supporting actors, okay? Like when you have branded packets, giving people information about what's to come. And that's one of the things that we definitely did with Bright Horizons. We helped to give them a vision of what that career path could look like. And you said it earlier, Dr. Gillen, you corrected yourself from job to career. And that's also a difference when you are hiring, showing a person what that road looks like, okay, where you can go. And I'm never gonna stop comparing this whole employment game to the dating game. Just like with dating, people want a long-term relationship. They're not, I mean, some people want to hit it and quit it, but come on, who got time for that in 2026? So when you're running a business, you have to vet in a way like you're dating somebody that wants the long term and wants to grow with the company, and those are the people that you want to actually develop. And that's really where Dr. Gullen and I come in at, because now that you have the person in there, now what happens? They have to be developed, they have to be nurtured, they have to be trained. And it's not just training that they need, it's the support, you know what I mean? And the guidance through it all, and I think that that's what separates the companies that are successful, because if you don't have things in place to support your employees and you're just kind of hands off throwing them into the ring, oh, you got this, I'll be back. No. And then when they do it wrong, you're like, you're fired. Now I can't get rid of them. No. Have you developed them? Have you even showed them what needs to happen? No, a lot of times they don't. They just kind of assume if you have experience, you know how to do it. But just not to get off topic, it's the process, Dr. Gullet, for me. That was my favorite part. Watching the handoffs, the support of other staff members as far as the recruitment team. It wasn't just the interviewer. You had different levels to it, different opinions, and you had a round table when it came to, is this person a fit? It's not just to hire anybody because we need bodies in here. You know what I mean? It's let's see if they're a fit. And everybody can't go. So yeah.
So, LaToya, how do you respond to the question? Yes, as you said, I keep it real. Early childhood education, as I understand it, is not a profession yet. We have the blueprint, I believe, from the work that was done by NAEYC with the power to the profession that, from what I know, has fallen on its face and ended or stalled. We are a field of practice, as one of my colleagues, when I worked for NAEYC, said to me. And so when I hear you talk about professionalism, I would think an easy out if I'm the leader of an early childhood business or program is, well, why are we even talking professionalism when we're not a profession? What does it look like making a shift in a field of practice? So it, I want to get your thoughts about I wrote down, and no, folks in LaToya, when my head's down, I'm making notes because I love to write. Um, it seems to me in this field of practice, what you were describing were employer and employee work habits
Mhm.
to successfully earn an income to be self-sufficient. If that makes sense, then I'd like your thoughts about, so what are these work traits, both for the employee and the employer? And if it doesn't make sense to you and you want to uh, disagree with me, which I always like because that gives me something to chew on and think about, um, that you don't agree, your perspective, you don't agree that it's not a profession, regardless of if there's the formal structure of a profession or not.
Well, see, that's an important factor. And you know what? When I was working with the businesses in childcare, I didn't know that it wasn't a profession. I thought sure it was, but it's apparent that maybe the essence of it not being a profession is where the lack of professionalism comes from. And that just comes from, that's why we do the professional development, because we have to change the mindset of not just because this is the thing, employers are always, they need to, and that's one thing that got on my nerves as a job developer, because I'm like, y'all need to too. Like, don't just because it's your business, don't, you can't point the finger and you could do whatever and think somebody's supposed to do this. They're supposed to be like this, but you could be like that. No. That's one thing, I held employees accountable, and I always got the whole story, and I would tell them, like, this is your business. Where do you get off saying this to someone? This is not your child. This ain't your cousin. You have to be professional. You have to be accountable. And a lot of times is in the world of business or leadership, it's like a, you do it because I said so. Or you out of a job. You know what I mean? Like that kind of dictatorship. And that type of leadership has been dead. You know what I mean? So one of the things is retraining the employer to understand that they don't have to work for you. You know what I mean? So what are you doing to make them want to come and work for you? Because people always act like they doing you a favor if they giving you a job. You know what I mean? And that attitude stinks. And I'm gonna be honest with you. People are like, well, hey, is this my establishment? And they could go home, they could leave. True indeed. But guess what? If they go home and leave, you don't have a business. You see what I'm saying? So you gotta have a space where people want to work here. And like I said, I've had to play straight up referee with employers, and I'm talking about all across the industries, but specifically in childcare, because people are too comfortable a lot of times, and I do think it's the setting. And when I hear this from you, Dr. Gundling, that it's not a profession, I'm like, what? That it needs to be. It definitely needs to be, because it's professional activity and it's an actual business, just like you're saying. But because of how the society kind of pushes us to the side, like, oh yeah, y'all just looking after the kids. No, like we teaching, we building minds over here. You know what I mean? This is the most important job. The most important outcomes, you know what I mean, happen in those first 5 years. But that's why we disrupt them, because people need to know that, and not just need to know it, they need to respect it. And it's not going to happen until everybody kind of gets on board and stands up for it. And that was one of my biggest successes, I would say, was changing the mindset and putting together processes and showing these employers that you can do this. This doesn't have to be this way, and I'm going to help you. And it was an education that I got to give, and I got to show them, hey, you need to get your branding together. What's going on with this? And my visits, Dr. Gullen, would help them. So I really enjoy doing it, because I love business and I also love the children. So I know it's like a win-win, because it's like if I can help them with the business, the children are always going to benefit. But I wanted to make it a place where each side of it is coming to the middle. You know what I mean? Because it was, nobody's perfect. And I know that I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for progress. And I got to work with some great employers that I saw them grow. I saw them like immerse themselves in the process. And the good thing, I didn't have to force them. Like they were really open to my feedback. They were open to my guidance. They open to it. I'm doing it for free, for real. So of course they open to it. They're like, oh wow, I'm showing them how to create handbooks. And what's the next step after this? They're like, oh well, they got to go and get the. Well, when are you going to tell them this? Like, what you need to have a process. What happens next? And then what happens next? And I'm gonna be honest with you, Dr. Gundling, a lot of the employees, they don't even know. They expect the candidate to know. Well, they should know. Really? Like, this is your business, you know? And that's been a delicate space for me because y'all already know I'm from the Bronx, so I can be a little how do you say, forward. And people sensitive about their business. That's your baby. They sensitive. So I have to kind of come in with a strong arm, but also a soft hand. And that is a it's a really calibrated place to land. And I think I do a great job of it, but I do it because I know it's necessary and I can see that they have a good business going on. But if they don't get out of their own way, they're going to ruin it. And if they don't get out of their comfort zone and try some things, because people are scared, they're scorned. And I say that all the time in the whole employer realm. They have had some horror stories. They've been bamboozled, people not showing up, people stealing, people just wilding. So I get it. I get it. And that's why I say you're like a scorned lover. You'll never want to love again. Like, nah, come on. You gotta go, go shake it off. Go have a night with your friends. You know what I'm saying? Go on vacation and come back renewed. And we're gonna try it again. Because that is what happens. We go through the growing pains and we go through the horror stories, but we have to do it to get to the other side. So to all of you guys, the business owners out there, definitely let us know if you're going through something similar to this. Let us know so that we can kind of dig into your actual story and try to help you put some things in place. Because that definitely, I think I can say probably nine times out of 10, the issue is the structure, having some structure, and for you, yourself, and for your ecosystem of employees.
Oh, unfortunately, LaToya, we're
We're
out of
at that
time. And you're sending gems. I've got notes being generated. And to summarize, I think a challenge in early childhood education is that because we didn't have structure and system when this field of practice was developed, the complexity of the problems and the challenges, I believe, has stayed with us. So it's not an easy fix. And as I listened to you and said, you got to do this and you got to do that, the voice folks just know as a director, leader of early childhood programs of all sizes, was screaming out, but I don't have the time and the money. And there comes complexity, because that's a whole new other series we
right.
could touch on. But I think finally, what you helped me understand, I think what we're trying to do is chew this massive elephant focused on the staffing crisis, one bite at a time.
Bye-bye. Only way.
And so thank you very much, LaToya. Thanks to everyone else. We'll be back next Friday. Um, all being well, if you're on the East Coast and um, affected, well, actually, it's moved from the South into the East Coast, the snow, winter stuff. Uh, be safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, LaToya.
Safe guys. See you later.
Bye.
Bye guys.